So you're wondering what it's like to live in El Paso? Well, in today's video, we're going to be covering jobs, traffic, food, entertainment, weather, people, and surrounding areas so you can get a good understanding of whether or not El Paso's a good fit for you. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Hey, what's going on everybody? Kenneth the Modern Agent here, back with another real estate video. One thing I did want to mention really quick before we dive in is that 85% of the people who watch my content aren't actually subscribed. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or just learn more about the real estate market, start right now, click the subscribe button and hit that bell notification so you can be notified every time we drop a new video and you can stay ahead of the trends and never behind them. Other than that, let's jump right in. So the first thing we're going to be talking about are the jobs here. So you've heard me talk about this before in other videos. Some of the largest jobs include the military. So the Army, with Fort Bliss being such a huge military base here in El Paso, obviously that's going to be one of the largest employers here. Another large area of employment is the Border Patrol. So El Paso obviously borders with Mexico and Juarez, meaning that the Border Patrol is going to be pretty prominent here in this area. Another area we see a lot of jobs being held are in the city and county level. So this could be anything from working at the post office all the way from working at, city and county service centers. Another area that we're seeing a lot moving into this new year is people working from home. So I know call centers are a big thing here that a lot of people tend to work at. And now that you can actually clock in, make calls from home, those jobs are becoming more and more prominent. And in terms of jobs, because I've seen some comments talk about, well, there's not a lot of opportunity there, or there's not a whole lot of jobs. One thing I always say to people is that you want to look at where the trends are heading, right? We are living in a digital age, and there are a ton and tons of businesses who need more customers. So if you can be the catalyst to that and help them make money, you can be a high income earner yourself and easily make six figures here. Things like marketing, branding, photography, videography, copywriting, learning how to create advertisements for local businesses that drive more customers. If you can learn how to obtain skills like that and be very, very proficient in it, then it's easy to make six figures. It's all about the skills that you possess and delivering value at the end of the day. So I think no matter what market you're in, I think there's always room for the best, and that should be you. Okay, so moving on to traffic. So El Paso spans, from west to east, we're looking at about an hour, in worst case scenario. So when it comes to traffic, and that's with no traffic. So most cases with heavy traffic, if you're trying to get from one side to the other, it'll take you 30 to 40 minutes. Now, in most cases, traffic is usually bad around 7 to 9 a.m. and around 4 to 7 p.m. Where we can see, I-10, one of the major interstates here, become a little bit congested. But even when it does, you're looking at maybe 10-15 minutes of slow bumper to bumper traffic, and then usually within a mile or less, that tends to clear up and you're back going 60-65. So traffic normally isn't that bad. Of course, it does get a little bit more congested during those hours, but something that I think is very manageable. So if you take that into account into your drive time, you should be fine, even if you're traveling, across town. Okay, so let's talk about the food for a moment. So being that, the majority of El Paso's population is Hispanic, you're gonna have a lot of Mexican restaurants and food trucks, which are completely amazing. Growing up in a Hispanic family, I love the food. But even if you don't like Mexican food or tacos and burritos and that kind of deal, it's not something that you're going to be limited to here. We have a lot of steak houses, pizzerias, bar and grills, wings, Italian restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Korean restaurants. So there's definitely a wide variety. But if Mexican's something that you do like, you're never going to have very limited choices. El Paso does have a lot of the big popular restaurants that I know you've heard of. So don't feel that you're gonna come here and there's only gonna be Mexican food. We do have a wide variety of food, and I think that it has a little bit of something for anybody's taste. Let's talk about entertainment for a second. So I made a list of the 48 best activities to do in El Paso. If you haven't picked that up yet, I highly recommend you do, and I'll link to that down in the description. Now that has a lot of things that are very common in most areas, but I want to kind of touch on the things that El Paso is a little bit more specifically known for. So we have a dry desert climate, and we have a lot of open land, a lot of areas with open land. So that brings things on like riding dirt bikes, quads, Can-Ams, mountain biking, hiking, paintballing, airsoft. So there's a lot of activities that you can do in the open desert. Me and my family, we personally love things like off-roading, riding Can-Ams, hunting, just going out to the desert, shooting. It's a lot of fun for us, and it helps us get away from the same old with bowling and the movies and the same thing that you can pretty much do anywhere. Okay, so you heard me touch on the weather a little bit. So diving a little bit deeper into that, we do have a dry, hotter climate. So we are in a desert, right? So our summers are pretty hot and our winters are pretty short and chilly. I mean, it doesn't get too bad, but if you're a local here, most people here aren't too fond of the winter. Me personally, I love the winter. I don't really like the heat a whole lot. Pretty bearable for me, but I definitely do prefer the winters. In terms of rainfall, like I said, we're a drier climate, not too humid. We're maybe looking at 10 to 15 inches of rain a year. Yeah, so they call it the Sun City for a reason. It's pretty much always sunny outside and great weather for outdoor activities and pretty much anything you can think of. So I did touch on the people and mention that there are a lot of Hispanic people here. I think the statistic was about 75% of the people here are Hispanic, and the remainder is a mixture of white, African American, Asian, so a little bit of a melting pot. But one thing I do want to mention, because why our Hispanic is so high is because we're border town with Juarez, Mexico, right? So obviously we have a lot of people coming in, they work over here, kids go to school over here, or they just have family over here. And to be honest, a lot of people here go into Juarez, Mexico for a lot of things. So they could go to purchase certain goods over there, purchase certain medicine, get medical treatment over there. Obviously the prices are cheaper over there. But not to mention, I have a client who actually, his wife has a doctor that she prefers that's over there in Mexico over the doctors here in the US, and that's just because she feels that the service and level of care is great over there. So that's one thing too, that it also kind of benefits us being here in El Paso to have easy access to Mexico. It's not just one of those things that, Hispanic people coming over here, one of the big things that I hear is like, oh, they're taking our jobs. And like, again, what I said about, employment, if you have the right skills, if you're willing to be the best at it, then you shouldn't be that easily replaceable. If you're that easily replaceable, it's because your skills aren't there yet. You don't have a skill that is difficult enough that not any average Joe can come in and take your job. So I recommend you, no matter what you're doing, try to be the best at what you're doing, to be irreplaceable in a company, and that's the way you develop, job security, and you don't fear that one day somebody's gonna come and take your job. Let's talk about the surrounding areas for a little bit. So El Paso is pretty much as West Texas as it gets. So we're actually closer to the capital of New Mexico than we are to actual Texas because of how far west we are. So just to give you a little bit of a breakdown of the surrounding areas, how far it is to drive there and fly there, here is a great list to look at. So we have Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is about 4 hours away driving. We have Phoenix, Arizona, which is about 6 hours driving and 1.5 hours flying. We have San Antonio, Texas, which is about 8 hours driving and 1.5 hours flying. San Diego, California, 10 hours driving, 3 hours flying. We have Dallas, Texas, which is 9 hours driving and 2 hours flying. Las Vegas, Nevada, which is 11 hours driving, 2 hours flying. Denver is 10 hours driving and about 2 hours flying. So those are some of the surrounding areas, a lot of major cities where you can actually go. Now, is it one of those things that you're gonna have a day trip to and come back? No, you're probably looking at, somewhere close to New Mexico or closer parts of Texas. So, but it does leave you in a position where Texas is somewhat in the central of the US, so it gives you that ability to be able to access some really major cities like California, Colorado, other parts of Texas, which are going to bring in more big entertainment events. So if you want to go to specific concerts or sporting events, I don't think you're ever too far away. So I think El Paso is a great area in my opinion. I've lived here pretty much my whole life, and we constantly travel to California, Colorado, other parts of Texas, and you know, it never seems like we need to travel too far. Really quick, one thing I do want to mention is that if you're planning on moving here, be sure to give me a text. I can send you a list of all the available homes in the areas, the best neighborhoods, the best places, safest neighborhoods to live. I can give you all that information. Go ahead and shoot me a text. I'll put my number right here on the screen for you, and I'll also leave it down below in the description. If you like the video, like the video. Right here is going to be a video about how to buy a home with zero money down. Right below it is a video that YouTube recommends you watch based off your interests, and I'll see you on the next one.